Cassie here, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be doing the unpopular opinions tag. I have a lot of those, but I'll try not to make them all about Jenny Han's books. I make no promises, but I'll give it a shot. This tag was created by the Book Archer, so thank you very much to her for all of the wonderful questions. I'll leave her original video linked in the Okay. I'll link her original video down below in the description if you'd like to check it out. There are 9 questions to this tag, so let's get started. Question number 1, a popular book or series that you didn't like. Listen, I didn't say that I wasn't gonna bring up Jenny Han at all. I hate To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I don't like it. I didn't like the first book. I didn't like the second book. I'm not gonna read the third book because I think it's dumb and poorly written. I genuinely don't understand how on earth anyone thinks that it's good writing. It really just confuses the heck out of me. It's one of the most confusing things in the world. I don't mind if someone says that it's a fun story and they enjoyed it, but I just can't wrap my brain around anyone thinking like, oh my gosh, this book was so well written and it's so beautiful and it has all these great, like, meaningful things about it. It's just, I don't like it. And I'm doing an entire series right now reading and critiquing P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han. And so I'm not gonna go on and on here about why I don't like it, because you can just watch those videos if you want to see more of how much I dislike those books. Question number 2 is a popular book or series that everyone seems to love, but no, other way around. A popular book or series that everyone seems to hate, but you love. Now, I don't think this really counts exactly for everyone hating it, because I know a lot of people who like this book, but I'm gonna say 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher, and I will defend this book to my dying breath. This book is amazing. It absolutely in no way glamorizes or romanticizes suicide. I don't understand why anyone thinks that that's the case. I don't see how you can read an entire story that is about a boy who's in love with a girl who's dead, and it's like the most depressing thing in the world to read because you want them to be together and you want Hannah to like find help for her problems, and you want Clay to be there to reassure her, and you know, and for her to, I don't understand how you can read all of that and think that this book is somehow trying to say that suicide is good. It's the complete opposite of that. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I'll probably do a whole video on this at some point when I find the bravery to actually talk about it. But it makes zero sense to me that anyone thinks that this romanticizes or glamorizes suicide. To me, this was the exact opposite. It showed us everything that is so gut-wrenchingly awful about someone deciding to take their life. This book is so hard to read, and it makes you sick to your stomach. And the reason it makes you sick to your stomach is because you feel like it is awful that Hannah decided to take her life, and that it could have ended so much better, and she could have gotten help, and she could have communicated her problems better, and she could have, you know, there were so many people who did care for her, and we see that in this book. And I feel like that is so the opposite of glamorizing suicide. I feel like that is showing people, hey, if you're considering this, look at Hannah's life and see that she was wrong about so many things. She was wrong about certain people like treating her poorly. Some of it was just a complete misconception on her part, and they weren't actually treating her poorly. Some of them were really horrible things that happened to her, but there were also so many avenues that she could have gone down to get more help that she didn't. And there were so many people in her life, like Clay and other people in her life as well, who wanted to be there for her and genuinely loved and cared for her. And she could have reached out to them, and instead she didn't. And to me, that shows that, you know, it shows you all of the ways that she could have gotten help that she didn't, and that maybe if you're in a similar position, maybe you should do what Hannah didn't and get help yourself. I do not agree that this book paints any kind of positive light on suicide. I think it paints only a negative light, because Clay Jensen is essentially the main character of this book, and he's the one that we're supposed to feel for. What we feel for him is gut-wrenching agony that the girl that he loves and cares for was struggling with so many things, and that we want them to be together. We're reading essentially a romance where we know that the characters are not going to end up together because one of them is dead, and that's horrible. It's so sad. It's so sad to read. And it's sad because she committed suicide, and we can see all of the things, all of the ways in which her life could have gone in a different, better way, and all of the options she had, and the fact that her life was not over and it was not meaningless, and there wasn't no hope. There absolutely was hope, and there were people who loved her, and we can see that clearly now, and we can see that she was wrong in her decision. And to me, that is like exactly the right message to be spreading about the issue of suicide. I just don't get it. I have no idea why people think that this glamorizes suicide. I think some people out there might have valid opinions on this, and maybe you can share them below if you think you do, but honestly, I think a lot of people just hear that something is about something that's controversial, and they think that because a book exists that's about suicide, that in itself glamorizes suicide. And I think that is ridiculous. It's almost as if, and I'm not saying everyone who doesn't like this book feels this way, but I think a lot of people, I've heard their arguments, and a lot of people, honestly, it's just that they think that if you talk about suicide at all, you're glamorizing it. If you write a book about it, it's somehow glamorizing it. And I don't see how that's the case. If you've read this book and see what it's about and actually understand the deep meanings behind it, like, it doesn't compute to me. Honestly, I want to say so much more about this book right now, but I've been talking for 9 minutes, so I should probably stop because I'm only on the second question. We'll have to put a pin in that, but let me know down below if you want to hear more of my opinions on this book. I will make a video all about it. Question number 3, name a love triangle in which the character ended up with the person that you didn't want them to, or an OTP that you don't like. Mine fits for both of these. Can you guess who it is? Freaking Peter Kavinsky. That's who. So I just finished reading P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, and I just can't with Peter anymore. He is the worst. I don't understand why anyone likes him. He's the worst. He's not a good boyfriend. He's not even a very good person, and I don't like him. I don't like him and Lara Jean together, so they are an OTP that I don't like. And there was a love triangle in P.S. I Still Love You, and I desperately wanted her to end up with John, and she didn't. So that was fun. Question number 4 is a popular book genre you hardly ever reach for. For me, that would definitely be fantasy. It's a very popular genre. So many of the authors I know and the readers I know either exclusively read or write fantasy. It's very popular right now, and it's just something that I don't know why, but I just don't really like it. I much prefer contemporary stories or dystopian stories. I enjoy stories with hints of fantasy or supernatural elements, but high fantasy is just not at all my thing, and I'm willing to give it more of a try than I have, but I just don't really think I'm gonna change my mind on that. It's just not for me. Number 5, a popular or beloved character you don't like. You have no idea how much I just wanted to say Peter again for this, because I really, really don't like Peter. But in an effort to say something that's not Peter, I'm gonna go with Jacob Black from Twilight, or in this case, New Moon, because that's really the book where I had the most problem with him. Actually, that's not true. I think I had more of a problem with him in Eclipse than New Moon. So here's the thing. I don't hate Jacob. I like him fine, but I absolutely didn't want him and Bella to be together, and I felt like, I'm actually gonna officially change that. New Moon is not the one I have a problem with, it's Eclipse. I was fine with him in New Moon because Edward was not in the picture anymore, and Bella was free game. That sounds terrible. She's a human person, she's not an object to win, but basically, like, she's single and available, and it was fine for him to like her and for them to have a relationship. And I absolutely think that Bella led him on way too much. But she also had a lot of issues at the time, so it's kind of understandable that she wasn't in the best frame of mind to push someone away who's actively loving her when she's like really needing that in her life, even if it probably would have been better for him to say, I don't feel that way about you. But anyway, the problem that I have with Jacob is, well, so many things, honestly. The thing is, like, I've had people in my life who were kind of like this, and it's something that I didn't really realize was a problem until much later in life, and I kind of felt the same when I read Twilight. I didn't have as much of a problem with Jacob. I mean, I didn't really like him because I wanted her to be with Edward, so it was annoying me that Edward was gone for almost an entire book. But aside from that, like, I knew there was something I didn't like about Jacob, but I couldn't quite pinpoint it, but here it is. I feel like Jacob is kind of a nice guy. And I don't mean he's a nice guy, I mean he's a nice guy, TM. I feel like Jacob is one of those guys who feels kind of entitled to Bella's love. And he's one of those guys who like does things for her because he likes her and then expects something in return. Like, if you don't like me, then you're being a jerk, even though it's like, okay, but I never asked you to do all this stuff for me. He also like constantly undermines her relationship with Edward, and I get that like you like her and you don't think Edward's good for her or whatever, but it's not an appealing trait in a person for someone to be like that. And I don't really see why so many girls like love Jacob and he's like, they wish Bella was with him, because she chose to be with Edward. And I mean, I guess I get it if you don't like Edward, but personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with Edward. So from my perspective, it's like, that's who she's with and that's who she chose, so you should respect that. And you know, I've had someone in my life before who liked me and used to constantly like undermine my boyfriend who I was with at the time and like make comments about them like not being good, or that I should be with them instead and they're better. And it's just like, it's very uncomfortable and it's very disrespectful and rude, and I don't like it. Unless the other guy is like actually abusive and there's really a serious problem, mind your own business. She chose to be with Edward, and if you're gonna like be her friend, then you need to respect that and not freaking kiss her against her will. How about that? Can we just talk about that for a second? It pisses me off so much that the people who love Jacob so much that they don't see any of his negative qualities. Like, at the very least, can we talk about him kissing her against her will while she's dating someone else and has many times told him that she's not interested in him in that way, and he forces a kiss upon her to where she has to punch him in the face afterwards to get him off of her. And he literally doesn't even seem to give one single crap about that at all. He just kind of laughs and thinks it's funny. And I don't like that. Who likes that? I don't get it at all. Like I said, I don't hate Jacob as a person and as a character altogether, but I think he has a lot of really annoying flaws, and he's not my favorite person. Question number 6 is a popular author you just can't seem to get into. And I know I said I'm gonna try not to talk about Jenny Han too much, but honestly, she's the only one I could think of that fits this category, because there aren't really many popular authors that I feel that I've tried to read multiple times and just don't like. There are some authors that I don't really think I probably will ever read anything by, like Sarah J. Maas or Cassandra Clare, because they just write types of stories that I'm not really interested in. But I can't really say that they're a popular author that I can't seem to get into, because I haven't even tried. I might be able to get into their works if I tried them, I don't know. But Jenny Han is the only one that I definitively know is just not for me. I don't like her writing style. I didn't enjoy her popular series To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and I'm not really planning to ever give any of her stuff a try again. Question number 7 is a popular book trope you're tired of seeing. Okay, so for this one, there are a lot of things I'm tired of seeing in relation to female protagonists, mostly in relation to female protagonists putting down other women. I'm very, very tired of that. There are a lot of ways in which this happens. You know, I mean, there's of course just snide comments that the female protagonists might say about other women, but some of the things that really bug me are female protagonists who talk a lot about how they don't wear makeup and that they don't really care about their appearance in a way that heavily implies that they're judging anyone else who does. I don't mind if a girl is just natural and just likes how she looks without wearing makeup or whatever, but whenever that trope happens, it's almost always it's there because she thinks that wearing makeup is like a negative thing, and she thinks that she's better for not wearing makeup. Or maybe it's not the girl herself saying it, but it's like a guy mentioning like, oh, I like her because she doesn't care what people think and she doesn't even wear makeup or care about her appearance. And it's like, I'm sorry, but how many guys actually want that in a girl? Like, do you really want a girl who doesn't care at all about her appearance? I know plenty of guys who don't really like girls wearing tons of makeup, but I don't really know many guys who want a girl who genuinely doesn't care at all about her appearance and doesn't like do anything with her hair or makeup at all. That's not typically true. I also don't like girls who are like super competitive with other girls or really, really jealous whenever like another girl talks to their crush or something. That's kind of annoying. Basically just any way in which girls like tear each other down and judge each other so heavily is not an appealing trait. I am fine with that trait if it's coming from a character who's supposed to be a mean girl that we're not supposed to like, but I don't like it when it's coming from the protagonist whose perspective we're reading from. If she's constantly talking about like, oh, that girl dresses like a slut, or oh, look at her, like with all her makeup, I don't even wear makeup, or it's just, I'm so tired of that. I don't want to see that anymore. It doesn't make me like the character that I'm reading from at all. Question number 8, a popular series you're not interested in reading. I kind of already touched on this, but the Throne of Glass series, I'm not really that interested in. I think I might try it at some point, at least the first book, because it has been a while since I've tried anything of that type of genre, and it's possible my interest might have changed. But in general, I'm not really very interested in that. Same with like the Mortal Instruments series, I think is what it's called. I'm not really that interested in that series either. I'm just not much of a high fantasy person. And finally, question number 9. The saying goes, the book is always better than the movie, but what is one television or movie adaptation that you thought was better than the book? For this, I'm definitely gonna have to say the Dexter series. I absolutely like the TV show far better than the books. I really, really like the books also, but there's just something about the TV show and some of the plot changes that were made that just make the show way better. This is gonna be a huge spoiler, so if you have any interest in reading or watching Dexter and you haven't seen it or read it and you don't want it spoiled, just skip ahead a bit or something. In the TV series, in I think season 3, at the end of season 3, Dexter's wife Rita dies. And that, when I watched the TV show, I was really, really sad. And that was actually one of the reasons I wanted to read the books, was because I loved Rita and I thought, well, maybe she doesn't die in the books, you know, maybe we get a little more time with her. And she doesn't die in the books, but I actually don't like that as much. I think the TV show actually did it better, because some of the things that happen after Rita dies they can't happen in the books because he's married. Like, there are other romances he has with some different women, and they're really interesting character development that Dexter goes through, being, you know, the person he is, relating to other people in a romantic way, because his relationship with Rita was never really that real for him. Like, he wasn't really romantically, he wasn't like in love with her. He was mostly something he felt like he needed to have so that people wouldn't suspect him for being a serial killer, because he's this weird loner guy. But in the TV show, after Rita dies, he actually has romances with 2 different female characters that I found very interesting, to see his emotional development as a character, that he actually did kind of fall in love with 2 different people. And it's also really interesting to see their relationship with him as characters, women who accepted him for who he was as a serial killer, was very, very interesting to see. Another thing that the TV series I think did way better is that they dragged out Deborah not knowing about Dexter's secret life way, way further than the books did. The first season of the TV show and the first Dexter book are very similar in their plot, with the ice truck killer who's dating Deborah, and Dexter ends up finding out that that guy is his biological brother, and then he tries to get Dexter to kill Deborah, and he like kidnaps her and ties her to a table and is trying to get Dexter to kill her. But what happens is, in the book, Deborah is completely aware and awake during that whole encounter. So after that scene, she now knows that Dexter and this guy are brothers, and that Dexter is also a serial killer. So she finds that out at the beginning of the very first book. Whereas in the TV show, she is unconscious during that whole exchange. So she doesn't find out about Dexter's serial killer ways until I think like season 7 or the end of season 6, one of the 2. So I thought that was way, way better, because in the books, I feel like Deborah just kind of from the beginning, it was like she finds out at the end of the first book, and then by the second book, she's just kind of okay with it, and we don't really get to see her struggle. And I love Deb as a character, so I really, really loved all the episodes where she was struggling with what to do with her brother and was trying to kind of help him rehabilitate, and like she was like having him live at her house and watching him 24/7 to make sure that he's not going out and killing people, and trying to figure out how to handle this situation. And that was something that didn't really get explored at all in the books. Another thing that is kind of always the case in books that are written in the first person versus their TV show adaptations is that TV shows and movies can explore side characters on their own a lot more than the books can. Like I just said, in the TV show, they explored Deborah's emotional journey a lot more after finding out about Dexter's, you know, murderingness. That was a stupid way to say that. But in the books, because the books are written from Dexter's perspective, not only is it written from the first person perspective, but it's written from a first person who is very unaware of human emotions and doesn't really observe them as well as normal people would. So it's hard to really explore what all the side characters are going through because we don't get to see that unless Dexter's seeing it, and Dexter's kind of oblivious. So I felt like that lent itself better to a TV show kind of format. All right, I'm done talking about Dexter now. So that is the end of the tag. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again to the creator of this tag for all the awesome questions. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me in the future, subscribe below. I post new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all next time, and have a great day. Bye.